Balachandra. Let's start off today's bulletin with fuel price hike story. Petrol and diesel prices have been hiked yet again by 80 paise today. So in a matter of 2 weeks, the petrol and diesel prices have risen by 10 rupees per litre. Now, we put up the chart on your screens at this point. Delhi, petrol is at 105.41 rupees per litre. Mumbai, petrol has reached 120 rupees per litre. In Chennai, it's at about 110.85 rupees per litre. And Kolkata, it's at about 115 rupees per litre. Diesel has touched the 100 rupee mark in Chennai. In Mumbai, it's nearing the 105 rupee mark. In Delhi and in Kolkata, it's nearing the 100 rupee mark as well. In the meantime, Petroleum Minister Hardeep Singh Puri has said fuel price rise in India worked out to be only 5% during April 2021 and March 2022, as against over 50% in some developed and developing nations. Now, he said, and I quote, "We're not the only country impacted by the war. The Russia-Ukraine war has affected the entire world." End quote. In the meantime, CNG prices have witnessed a steep hike in Delhi, Mumbai and Gujarat. The price has been hiked by 7 rupees per kg in Mumbai, while in Gujarat it's been hiked by 6.5 rupees per kg. In Delhi, the price was hiked by 2.5 rupees per kg, taking the total increase in rates in the last 1 month to about 10 rupees per kg. Moving away from the story now on to COVID, the BMC in Mumbai in a press release said India's first case of COVID variant XE has been reported in Mumbai today. One case of the Kappa variant has also been detected. The patients with new variants of the virus, the BMC said, don't have any severe symptoms so far. Now, it's believed that the XE variant is 10% more transmissible than the other Omicron mutations. Now, XE is a recombinant, which is a mutation of BA1 and BA.2 Omicron strains, I beg your pardon. Recombinant mutations emerge when a patient is infected by multiple variants of COVID. Now, NDTV, quoting official sources from the Union Home Ministry, however, has said that the present evidence does not suggest that it is XE variant. Moving on now, the BJP leader in Maharashtra, Mohit has offered free loudspeakers to play the Hanuman chalisa in public places. Now, this comes amid the Azan Hanuman chalisa row, which has now erupted in Maharashtra and in Karnataka as well. Mr. Kamboj has tweeted, and I quote, "Anyone who needs a loudspeaker to install it in a temple can ask us for free," end quote. It all started when Raj Shakre-led MNS has called to ban loudspeakers playing the Azan from mosques. They said that they will play Hanuman Chalisa on loudspeakers also. In the meantime, in Karnataka, Minister K.S. Ishwarappa has said that a solution should be found to address the concerns of the use of loudspeakers in mosques in the state. There's also a comment that's coming from the Chief Minister of the state of Karnataka, who has said, and I quote, "This is a High Court order. It's not forced. Everything has to be done by talking and explaining to people. It's not only for Azan, it's for all loudspeakers, so we will take a call," end quote. Last year, the High Court had curbed the use of loudspeakers in religious places. Meanwhile, there's an update on the story of a textbook, a nursing textbook, which had listed advantages of dowry. That is going to now be withdrawn after several people criticized it and faced flack for mentioning merits of dowry in the nursing textbook. The book had listed merits of dowry and stated that dowry system can help marry off ugly-looking girls. It was criticized by several people on Twitter, especially including Shiv Sena MP Priyanka Chaturvedi. Now, the Indian Nursing Council has condemned the use of its name by a publisher and an author for the sale of the textbooks with derogatory content. Also in the news, an assistant professor at Aligarh Muslim University was suspended today for allegedly hurting religious sentiments by making references to Hindu mythology in a class in the forensic medicine department on rape. Now, he has also been booked by the police. Assistant Professor Dr. Jitendra Kumar has issued unconditional apology. Now, Indian Express, citing an EMU official, has said that during a lecture for the department covering the subject of rape on Tuesday, Kumar had used references to certain Hindu gods like Lord Brahma and Lord Indra. The official said, and I quote, he had also made some references to the Nirbhaya gang rape case. Students took objection to the references made to Hindu gods. End quote. Meanwhile, the CBI has taken former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh into custody from Mumbai's Arthur Road jail in connection with an alleged corruption case. Now, Mr. Deshmukh had earlier approached the Bombay High Court challenging the special court order allowing the CBI to take him into custody. The judge asked Deshmukh's lawyer to mention this plea to another bench. Meanwhile, in Meghalaya, according to officials, heavy rainfalls have triggered a series of landslides and 2 people at least have died because of these landslides. PTI has reported that several students have missed their board exams because of this as well. The 2 deaths took place on Monday. Moving on to what's happening in Parliament right now, Union Road Transport and Highways Minister Nitin Gadkari has informed the Rajya Sabha that based on the latest issue of the World Road Statistics 2018, India ranks number 1 per number of persons killed and ranks number 3 per number of persons injured in road accidents. Now, the percentage of fatalities involving road users between 18 to 45 years of age stood at 69.8% for the year 2020. On to business news right now. According to a report by the IMF, India has prevented the rise in extreme poverty levels during the COVID-19 pandemic because of food transfers and subsidies. Now, the report says, and I quote, extreme poverty was as low as 0.8% in the pre-pandemic year 2019, and food transfers were instrumental in ensuring that it remained at that level in pandemic year 2020. Extreme poverty in India is less than 1% in 2019, and it remained at that level during the pandemic as well. End quote. On to what's happening in Sri Lanka. Here's the latest. Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa late on Tuesday night revoked the state of emergency with immediate effect on his island nation. Now, the president said he has withdrawn the emergency rule ordinance, which gave security forces sweeping powers to curb any disturbance in the country. Remember, there's massive shortage of fuel and essential food items, and there have been protests demanding the Prime Minister and the President's resignation as well in the last couple of days. Considering Sri Lanka is facing its worst ever economic crisis since its independence. Now, President Rajapaksa had declared a state of emergency on the 1st of April amid that spate of protests, which has now been revoked. Meanwhile, the Chief Government Whip and Highways Minister has said that despite the protests against the President and demands for his resignation, the President will not resign. He said, and I quote, "May I remind you that 6.9 million people voted for the President. As a government, we are clearly saying the President will not resign under any circumstances. We will face this," end quote. Now, claiming the opposition party was behind the violence in the country, he also said that this is thug politics and should not be allowed, and called on the people to end the violence. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's sovereign dollar bonds dropped more than 3 cents today to trade at deeply distressed levels of less than 40 cents in the dollar. The stock market fell around 2%. Also in the news, the Bank of Ceylon Employees Union on Wednesday protested against the government, calling for democratic reforms amidst the ongoing crisis in Sri Lanka. Now, the union demanded that the state banks be restructured. According to ANI, senior vice president of the Bank Employees Union has said, and I quote, "We need democratic reform. We demand to instantly dissolve parliament and hold an election," end quote. Now, American business and financial services company Moody has said that resignations of key officials in the Sri Lankan government will raise policy uncertainty, compounding external liquidity and fiscal difficulties. It also said that the intensifying social unrest and sporadic curfews are likely to further strain the tourism industry. Moving on to Ukraine crisis, it's day 42 of Russia's invasion in Ukraine. Ukraine's deputy prime minister has urged residents in the eastern regions of Kharkiv, Luhansk, and Donetsk to evacuate while they have the chance. She said, and I quote, "It has to be done now because later the people will be under fire and face a threat of death," end quote. This comes amid fears that Russian forces are gearing up for a large-scale offensive in the east of the country. Also news, according to the BBC, Bucha mayor has said that at least 320 people have been shot dead by Russian forces, and the figure is only getting bigger. There were reports of mass graves in Bucha. He went on to describe how ruthlessly people have been killed and their bodies have been piling up. Now, Russia has, however, denied these allegations. There's also, interestingly, a response that's coming from India, which is now being called as India's strongest response so far on the Ukraine crisis. At the UN SC meeting on Tuesday, India condemned Bucha killings as deeply disturbing and supported the call for an independent probe. Now, T.S. Tirumurti, the Indian representative to the UN, has said, and I quote, "We unequivocally condemn these killings and support the call for an independent investigation," end quote. There's also a comment that's coming from the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, speaking on the Russia-Ukraine war in the Parliament today. Union External Affairs Minister has said, and I quote, "If India has chosen a side, it has chosen the side of peace, attributing political color to India's action vis-a-vis Ukraine situation is unfortunate," end quote. Moving away from the Ukraine story now, the United States, United Kingdom and Australia have announced that they will work together via the recently created security alliance known as AUKUS to develop hypersonic missiles. Now, the leaders said in a joint statement that they are, and I quote, "committed today to commence new trilateral cooperation on hypersonics and counter-hypersonics and electronic warfare capabilities," end quote. Now, Australian Prime Minister has said that Australia's involvement in building hypersonic missiles with AUKUS counterparts US and the UK is an effort to achieve stability in the Indo-Pacific region. And one piece of good news before we wrap things up here on this bulletin, this comes in from Mumbai. Mumbai civic body, the BMC, has said that 100% of the eligible population is now fully vaccinated. The city has achieved the target more than 14 months after the nationwide rollout of the COVID vaccine. Remember, the mask mandate has also been removed in the state of Maharashtra. However, COVID-appropriate behavior is something that the government has said will have to continue. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Do leave us your feedback on what you want us to improve on. Good night.